were ordered.
Need a gavel?
No.
She can't.
I took it away. All right, all members are present. Thank you all for being here. And let's work on the minutes. Does everybody have the minutes from September meeting? You can look on mine if you don't have it.
The attachment that I'm referring to is, I guess it would be the one that you sent us.
That's correct. That's
That went
correct.
to the, which is gonna be officially going to the.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay.
And it has the header here,
Yes.
and then this has a different header, so that's how you know.
Okay,
the difference.
good.
But going forward, I'm gonna date
Okay,
them,
good.
so we'll
Good
have a
idea,
little
very
bit
good.
better. All right,
All right.
I'm just going through.
There's nothing.
I was gonna say, I think everything looks good.
Hmm.
Okay. Move to approve?
I have one question.
Sure.
What's the definition of the village business district? Is it just this triangle here, or what does that encompass?
VBD is, there's like two different areas, but mostly, right now, it's just the store.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a separation for recreational district.
Oh, okay.
Recreation district is like the golf course, or any commercial, like recreational business. That's a different district.
Okay.
So recreational district is a golf course, and then VBD right now is really only the store.
And then what about this triangle?
I do not, is that zoned VBD? Yes, it is. No,
Oh, is it defined there?
let me look. Yeah, it is on the map.
Okay.
I don't think it is.
No, it's not.
Is it called something
I
else, or
can't
what
tell.
do you
Yes,
call
it is. I think it is. Those periwinkle colors get me, but it is. It's the periwinkle color. See up by the red, you got the MUN, which is the red. There's where we are sitting right now, and then you got the triangle and the store. That's all VBD, and I think there's another little section there too.
Yeah, there's a couple.
So, sorry, where the store is?
Oh, right there. Yep,
Here?
you got it.
Oh,
And then
so
that's the triangle, and then
that's something
all
else.
those other little periwinkle parts are all
That color and that
VBD.
color, I think, are different.
Are those two get me? Yeah,
Huh,
they're a little close for my liking,
okay.
cause I can't tell the difference between those two colors really.
So
Especially
this
not for you.
is this considered commercial or not,
Yeah.
this triangle?
Yes,
It is,
yeah,
okay.
it is. Alright,
All right, back to the
do you have a
minutes.
second to approve the minutes?
Well, what was the
Oh.
first?
I made a
okay.
motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Alright,
Okay, everyone in favor, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
alright. Okay, so, I've added a couple things to our agenda, one of which is public comment. So we're gonna go ahead and get to that. I added it at the beginning of our agenda.
What did Lisa tell you?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay,
But, I can add it, so I'm adding it.
all right.
And there is probably not a good idea to like make a big discussion out of it, otherwise we're never gonna get through meetings. I don't wanna get into arguments either. I would love to hear what the public has to say, what the village members have to say, because we are their board. We belong to them, we volunteer for them, and that's ultimately our biggest responsibility, is protect their interest and the community's interest, and our own, because most of us live in this community or in the ETJ. So I added it to the front of our meeting to be able to give people an opportunity to talk prior to us boring them to pieces with our, like, the semantics we get into sometimes.
And-
Go ahead,
and
sorry.
Is the public comment specific to,
It can
this
be
document or
anything, it can be anything, and I welcome the board members to take notes. That's kind of what I hoped it would be. They have ahead of time what we'll be discussing.
Okay.
Usually, today I don't know if we'll even get to the new business, but that gives them an opportunity to kind of go, hey, I have these ideas about that, I wanna hear them, we all need to hear them. And they can be specific to this agenda or any agenda, and just anything they have to say, we can take notes, that's what I plan to do. I don't
Okay.
plan to make a discussion out of it or to answer any questions. And most of the time, I'm probably gonna say, if you have something you feel strongly about, please come to a village council meeting, because those are the decision makers.
Sure.
We are guiders, we are not decision makers. And I think it always helps to have the public comment to help guide us.
But it's open for any topic related to
Absolutely.
planning. is that-
Yeah, anything that
Is there gonna be
people
a
wanna.
time limit on anything?
I think that right now we only have 2 members of the public, 4 members of the public in, so, you know, I think we'll just kinda let it be.
Okay,
Usually, I think just a couple minutes, you know, we won't probably be back and forth. So at this time, I'm gonna open the floor for public comment, if anyone would like to make a comment or have anything to say that they'd like to bring up to the board. And if you'll state your name and your address, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So my name is Rosie Giuliano. I live on 2 Burning Tree Place. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for opening up public comment. I've done the same for the council, and, you know, to your point, you know, you're here planning, and the council members are the ones who are gonna make decisions, et cetera. To have the opportunity here to kind of help give some guidelines as to how the residents are thinking, I hope that at some point, maybe we get a few more individuals here for some of this. Unfortunately, I have a feeling that some people don't know exactly what some of the meetings are about. So I know there's been some discussion about agendas and maybe beefing them up a little bit to give some people some additional information, which I think would be great. So the reason that I'm here today, and the topic that I wanted to bring up, has to do with fencing. And I know that fencing is on the agenda, and it's something that you guys are talking about, and it, you know, continues to be discussed on a number of different levels. So what I have heard is there are a couple of individuals who are over on the east side who have had some issues with fencing. Some of them went ahead and put in fencing, and they didn't have permits. And as a new individual who comes into the community, yeah, it's probably something you should check on, and unfortunately something that they didn't. However, what they put in was a vinyl coated fence. And the vinyl coated fence has a black color to it. I've seen photos of it. And I don't see anything that looks off or is, you know, unattractive as far as the fencing is concerned. What I have seen in the ordinances is that it is something that the council has to decide upon, and apparently the council has decided that they don't want to accept it, and they have told the individuals that they need to take the fencing down. The fencing cost them $7,000. It would be $600 for them to continue having discussions with the council in regard to all of this, which they feel at this point is kind of difficult for them to do. Plus they're now stuck with, I need to take it down, what's the cost gonna be? I need to put a new fence up, what's the cost gonna be? So I'm not sure what all the guidelines are for trying to figure out what the type of fencing should be. I know that in the ordinances, they speak to security, which I understand, and the security decision almost seems as if it's dependent on what the council feels is security. They talk about around, you know, maybe a pool, and I can't say for sure that the pool is even one of those things, but it's to secure something. And the individuals who put the fence up were trying to secure their backyard. They have a couple of small children, they have animals, and where they are, behind them, is basically nothing but open area. So my question is, why the council seems to be so strong on it has to be taken down. So they're being charged $50 a day for the fact that they haven't taken it down, and they're looking for an extension, et cetera, to try and come up with a way to move around all of it. So I don't know if anyone's taken the time to go take a look at the fence, to even see what it looks like. I suggest that maybe it's something that they consider doing. And then the last point that I have is I did a little bit of investigating on my own, and I took a look, and Whispering Pines, Pine Bluff, Aberdeen, Southern Pines, Taylortown will allow for vinyl coated chain link fence. So I don't see it as, you know, a big pushback that, hey, everybody in the area doesn't like it. maybe it's something that we just need to kind of take a look at and understand, does it work for them? Considering where they're located and they're trying to secure their home, you know, with the fact that they have kids and they have dogs.
Can I ask you a question, or maybe you?
You can ask questions.
Is it in the guidelines for fencing, is that specifically prohibited or just unaddressed?
From what I had seen, and I just did like searches on the ordinances, it said that that it could be approved by council under certain circumstances, you know, if it had to do with security. But as a normal guideline, no, it wasn't something they wanted. However, what I found that was also a bit conflicting was it spoke about gated communities, which I don't believe we have any gated communities here. And vinyl coated fencing seemed to be okay for a gated community, but not so for a regular residence. So there in itself, to me, you know, that's conflict, so.
I think and I'm not to interrupt you, but I think the gated communities we do have are in the ETJ. So that,
Okay.
and the ETJ, we used to have a separate group of everything that has been absorbed into the full UDO. So there's gonna be some areas that feel a little off, just because you don't, like you said, you don't know where there's any gated communities, but there's Grand Pines, that's in the ETJ, there's, you know, little things like that. So that's a part that might be a little less confusing if you think of the whole of Foxfire,
So
ETJ
then-
included.
Maybe the reason that it's allowed in the ETJ in what's considered a gated community could be considered for some of the areas over here as well, where you have an open area. It's not as if there's another residence behind you or anything like that, it's open woodland. So, you know, what's the reasoning behind it being different, I guess?
Is
And
it-
I feel for the individual that they have to, you know, go through.
Do you have the address by chance? I'd like to look at it. I would
Actually,
like to
Is
see what
it
it is.
vinyl?
I have a
coated
picture of it.
Link
Yeah.
fence, or is it
It's
vinyl?
it's vinyl coated, it's black.
It's a link?
One.
But
Is it a
chain
link
fence?
fence, like a chain link?
It's a chain link. Yeah,
Vinyl
it's a
coated
chain
fence,
link,
okay.
black vinyl.
Okay.
It's one birdie cord.
It says,
Okay, so, do you know what our ordinance says?
in the ordinance, it says vinyl coated chain link fencing may be approved by the village council at specific locations for safety or security reasons such as well sites, maintenance facilities, and recreational facilities.
Right, which is kind of, you know, so it just,
And I think what they're saying is they won't approve it for a residential area,
but
they're
it's not
saying
in
for
the
other.
front either, it's in the back. So
Yeah.
it's not in the front, it happens to be in the back, which is, you know, to me, it just seems, you know, somewhat questionable. And I don't quite understand what the pushback is, and when you talk to the council basically comes back, well, it wasn't my decision, this one, and I'm not going there, but, you know, this one made the decision, and it just kind of,
Have
I
you
can
seen
understand.
the fence?
I'm sorry.
Have you seen it?
I have seen the fence from a distance, and I know that Sandy has seen it
I've seen
from Google search.
I've
She's
got
taken a look
pictures
at it
somewhere.
as well.
I mean, is it, what, aesthetically, is it ugly or
No,
what?
not at all.
It's, you could
Not
barely
really.
see it's there,
Mhm.
honestly.
I think, and I'm not gonna be able to speak specifically to this.
Mhm.
The council's made some type of a decision, I'm not aware of it, and I would like some time to research that. I will tell you, as a group, we are going to be discussing and updating our fencing ordinances. And that, with your comment, we can take that into consideration of what, you know, is existing. I would never wanna put ourselves in a position to be in opposition of the village council. They ultimately do
Yes.
best, they are the be-all, end-all. We make recommendations, and they actually set the zoning.
Understood.
So, we will be updating, there's little things in there, like some of it's outdated, the standard size 10 years ago is not the standard size that's available right now.
Right.
Like if you go to Lowe's, the standard size that we have available is offset from what Lowe's and all the other people are carrying now. That's a hardship to our community, and so
Yes.
those are little things we'll be updating, and I'm sure that we can take some other, you know, aesthetic things into consideration along the way as well. I can't promise anything, because if the village council's already ruled on something, the idea that we could bring something to them and kind of recommend it is probably, that's slim to none. But we will be updating the fencing ordinance to kind of give the whole community an opportunity to update and put ourselves where we are today with the rest of the communities in our area.
Got it,
So-
understood. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for your comment.
I have two questions about that. So when someone comes in and they're new, they have no idea they need a permit to put a fence up, right? Had they known when they came into the village and received the permit, then they would have been told, you can't build that kind of fence.
I think when you buy a home, in the state of North Carolina, when you buy a home, it's the homeowner's responsibility, and I'm not going against anything, this is the legal law. When you buy a home in an area, it's your responsibility to check the zoning and the UDO laws within a community. If there's an HOA, the realtor has to give you a copy of that HOA by law. But when there's no HOA and there's a UDO and zoning in place, it's your job as a homeowner to go out and seek that information out when you purchase a home.
Which makes it, I understand what she's saying, but I came to the area 6 years ago, and I find that it makes it really difficult because I didn't know that they're a homeowner. I would have expected my realtor to tell me, my realtor didn't tell me.
Yeah.
I bought my house thinking, I did it over a video, because my son lives here, and I thought I lived in Jackson Springs. I did research for Jackson Springs. I did not know there was such a thing as Foxfire. So,
And that does make it
and
difficult.
when I finally came, I mean, I'm driving in and it says Foxfire Village, so that was my first time. And so it's very confusing, especially if you come from the outside, to understand what it's supposed to be. You know, I mean, I would have thought that the realtor had the obligation, and how did I know that I had the obligation?
So,
Yeah,
Rick,
because-
I think this type of fence is addressed in the, so is the decision subjective, or I mean, how?
No, when they're saying may be considered, they're saying may be considered for well sites. What's, name off the list
facility-
again.
Maintenance facilities and recreational facilities.
Yeah, security reasons such as well sites, maintenance facilities, and recreational facilities.
So what is the definition of recreational?
Backyard?
Like a park.
No,
I think the
field.
park, the ball field, yeah. It would be more, less in the residential. That's more of an application in the MUN or the VBD or in the recreational district. And I think we're going through a little bit of a growing pain right now. We do have to at some point go through this UDO and get it less confusing, because there are areas that haven't caught up. So we're gonna end up, we did the land use plan last year, we're gonna do it with the UDO this year, and we're gonna kinda go section by section. And just, some sections will be quick, some sections will be a little bit more involved. Go ahead.
I think that the issue here is, that is key to me, key is the safety or security, because, you know, I mean, you're defining safety or security, but only for well sites, and what about safety and security of the rest?
I'm playing devil's advocate. If you would build a fence that has the wood fence that's allowed, with the opacity that's allowed, and then put the screening that's allowed, that's gonna give you the same exact amount of security, possibly more, because the chain link fence, you can only go to the ground, you can't go under the ground. But if you have a fence that's within the UDO that we already allow, with the same opacity, you can put I forget the name of the wire, it's like a box wire, it's not chicken wire, it's a box wire. And it's made for inside of those fences to keep animals, children, you know, it does help with safety. And you can, you know, put a gate, and then you can actually go further down into the ground. You can dig a foot down in, put that fence even further in, so nothing can dig under your fence to get to your small animals, things like that, or your children.
I mean, all these words to me still are subjective, you know, you could say, like this fence, it's for security for my kids, or your security
I think
for
where it's not subjective is they don't define security in the residential area. They're talking about the VBD, the RD, the MUN, but none of those things existed when this was written. The VBD was not there, MUN was not there. This was written prior to me coming on, 2 years ago? 2 years in January. And we did a lot of work to add in some different districts to kind of separate out those municipal areas and get that away from the residential. But some of our UDO still has wording in it that it could be a little ambiguous, and we don't want that. I don't want somebody to build a $7,000 fence
Yeah.
and not know, like they were thinking that was also subjective for residential, like I can go to the board. And I'm sure, they probably built it without looking at the UDO or without knowing, and then when they did go back and look, they went, oh, okay, good, we can go to the village council and get approval, because it's subjective.
They kinda put the cart before the horse, they should've gotten the approval and then.
Unfortunately, but it can be confusing, and just like she said, when she moved here, I don't know how long this family's been here, I don't know,
Where they came from.
how well versed they are with zoning laws or UDO, and if you don't do this every day or all the time like we do, we're pretty well versed at this, and all of us have backgrounds involved in that in some way.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for us to look at that and be able to translate this into a language that makes sense. It's a lot harder for somebody that's wrangling 3 children, 2 dogs, full-time jobs, to wrangle this UDO. So
But
I have sympathy
even
for
I
it.
had the experience, but when you enter into a contract for instance, in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
it tells you all the things that you have to look into, it tells you right there.
Unfortunately,
On the
North
contract.
Carolina does not have that law. And it only really applies to an HOA. And I think their stance is, if you're gonna move anywhere in the state, there's gonna be zoning laws, whether the county, whether the municipality, the ETJ, you're going to be in it. Before I bought my house, and because I have a background in zoning and understand, from 911, I wasn't on this board, but I knew before I bought my house, because I was coming from an HOA, that I wanted to know every single regulation that was gonna be on me. So I called down here to the village, but I knew to do it because I work in the real estate industry and I worked in 911 prior to that. So I knew about zoning, about, what regulations I was possibly gonna be under. I just needed to see the exact stuff. That's not necessarily what every homeowner knows. It's unfortunate that they don't get a copy of it when they move here.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how to remedy that.
Well, I mean,
It's not a North Carolina law.
without being critical of the family, it's kinda like, it's not a no-brainer, but it's kinda like,
No.
I'm gonna build something, maybe I ought to call City Hall and make sure I don't need a permit.
Well, people don't think that way because it's their property. So when we moved here 2 years ago, we had a welcome packet, someone came by and gave us a welcome packet to Foxfire Village. Is there any way that now, moving forward, we can even put an insert in saying fencing, check with,
You know what, let me ask Lisa, I need to ask Lisa what is given when people move. I know when you move to the ETJ, nothing's given to you. I had to call her and get, I got an emailed document that was the old ETJ rules before RE5 came into play. And I had like 2 sheets of all the things that they could tell me what to do with my property. And I was like, do I really want to buy this house in an ETJ? But I saw the beauty of this community and decided I could live with it, especially after coming out of the HOA that I was in. It was extremely stringent, and at least, I could park more than 2 cars in my yard. So.
I mean, it would be so simple to put an insert in, and if this
Yeah.
family has to take that fence down, it costs them $7,000 or $8,000, that's substantial.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, and my first question would be, and it's gonna be to Lisa, because she probably knows all about this, my question's gonna be, is there any retrofit that can be done? I realize they have a $7,000 fence they put up, and, you can't unring the bell now, the bell has been rung. So what can be done to make it not a hardship to the community and not a hardship to them? Could there be,
Oops, I'm sorry.
no worries, could there be some type of, retrofitting done on the exterior that would, keep it from being what it shouldn't be? So I don't, that's my first question, how can they move forward, not just, do they just get a no, or, what happens from here? What does new?
What's the compromise, huh?
Yeah, I'm always looking for the compromise. What is the compromise? I don't want to go against the zoning. I don't want to go against what's there, because it was thought out, regardless of what we today think about it. The people that did this UDO, however many years ago they did it, they thought really hard and long about the community they wanted to build.
Yeah.
And that work should also be taken into consideration. So, I think everybody everybody should be considered, but how can the family move forward from there? So,
But I think it's over and above that. I mean, an example is, why is it that, for instance,
mhm.
Southern Pines allows, the fences to be solid, and it doesn't seem to bother, and why does it bother this community? Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
What is
I
the
do.
thinking behind it? I mean,
There's always gonna
when
be,
you go through Southern Pines, it's very pleasant.
yeah.
It doesn't look like it's a dump or anything else like that. So why is it allowed there, but not here?
I think that comes down to a matter of opinions along the way. There are people that have had opinions along the way, and, we're gonna update some things. Maybe we make some recommendations to update, some of this fencing. I'll read through in a moment what the work session,
And then they'll come back to us and say, no, whatever.
and that is their right. They are the voted on village council, and they make, by law, they make the changes. We just can recommend. We can only, and I think that's the message that I've given myself all over the weekend, because I'll tell you, when I left that meeting Friday, everybody was kind. They really complimented all the work our board did and knew how much went into it for the most part. But I had to, kind of check myself a little bit and go, I'm really discouraged because we put so much into it.
Okay, well, backtrack and tell us about this meeting.
But, sometimes the answer's gonna be no, and that's just the way of it, and that's why we have these boards, because no one person gets to make all the rules for everybody else, so.
If you read this section here in the,
Oh.
village business district.
Yeah.
It talks about, fences, walls that abut, non-residential zoning of vinyl coated can be screened with plant materials. I mean, maybe that's a compromise, where they put up a bunch of
That might be,
arborvitae or something.
that might be a good compromise, and maybe they can do like a conditional zoning thing, I'm not sure. That'll be up to the village board, but I agree with you. I think that there could be some recommendations made, to help them out, and to, I know the board's not gonna let us change anything that says we're gonna allow a bunch of chain link fences all over the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But maybe on a one-off, they can, get a little bit of reprieve. With that in mind, before we get into the rewrites of the business, I wanna go through a couple things, from the last meeting. We finished up, and I brought the recommendations to the board. And I wanted to kind of go through those. The recommendation to add permanent basketball goals was rejected. That was outright rejected. No recommendation to fix the wording or
No
anything.
basketball?
Just no basketball, just outright rejected. But they did ask us to add, move that to a new section, and I've done that in this next piece.
A
So
permanent one though, not the
Is that
mobile
on,
one.
Not
is
the-
that on
not the-
someone's property, like on their driveway, or?
Yes.
Permanent pole.
They can move them, the rollaway's okay.
Yes,
Rollaway's fine, but the
permanent pole.
permanent ones, no.
So the one you can, the roll.
You can still have the non-permanent, and I actually will go through, let me go through these, and then, I redid what they asked us to redo, and I've got that here for voting for us. And certainly, we can, move wording around, but this is almost verbatim what they've asked from us. So, let me just go through each one. The second part was additional storage buildings, or additional accessory buildings, adding in chicken coop. Remember, we were gonna add those. They added in RA5 and RF 200, and then, there was a recommendation to add in rabbit hutch also, and that passed.
Okay, well, for the first, where is this?
That's not in this packet. It's in this packet.
Okay,
So
so
it's-
they did approve
They
that?
did approve that, correct. They passed that, correct. So that was passed, and I'm gonna share my little
Yeah,
things. that you guys like.
did they give in the discussion why they were rejecting the
No.
permanent basketball?
They voted on it, and the general consensus was they didn't wanna see any play equipment in the front yard of any kind. It needs to be side yard or backyard, and that's it.
Okay, but you do have side
That's
over
really
here.
movable one.
But I had in,
Just for the,
they also didn't want them on the house. We also had them where they would go on the home. You can put whatever you want, play equipment in the side yard or backyard, but not,
Not attached to the.
not
home.
attached to the home, not in the front yard.
Sorry, did you just say basketball equipment's not approved, but chicken coops are approved?
Chicken coops are only approved in EU, RE, RA5, RF200, large lot only right now.
Where would that be?
That would be ETJ mostly.
Okay.
That's mostly in the ETJ, and I will tell you that, the reason that we even added it was because of a legal discussion, and there's no way to tell people in the ETJ they can't have a chicken coop.
Have you ever seen a chicken coop in someone's backyard?
I had one in my backyard. Do you see my house?
No.
But
And
you
you'll
don't
never
even
see
see
it.
her house.
You'll never see it. It's 1,700 feet off the road, and I actually have a very large chicken coop. I have 24 chickens right now. And really in the ETJ, that's fine. And you know, I don't know what North Carolina regulation will say going forward either in the community, but this is just large lot. When you're talking, and we'll do more, we need to get to our training session, we absolutely do, so we can understand more about what these zones mean and where
Yeah.
they mean. But when you're talking about the EU, RE, RA5, and RF200, these are large lot, and you know, at basically minimum 5 acres, and you know, some of
So
the
they're
EU and
not
RA.
lots that are on the course?
These are not within the village proper, not within the village proper.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
they did vote on this, so this are,
No, they have not voted on any of this yet. This will go over tonight. This is the new recommendations they asked me to bring back to them, to
okay.
vote on their next meeting.
But they did vote on the chicken coops?
They did, and that passed, and I think Lisa was gonna add Rabbit Hutch to it. As far as we recommended the animals in EU and RF200 be put to a combined total of 30, not any amount. It was recommended to do a combined total of 30, and that was approved, but the wording notwithstanding equine acreage requirements of Foxfire Village was added.
30 chickens then?
30 of any kind of animal.
Well, that'd be kinda like a Tyson
Why,
chicken farm.
why does it, I never asked.
Oh,
Why does it
that's
say
messed up.
no roosters?
Because that is what's in the, that's what's in the UDO.
So nobody can have any.
Not supposed to have any roosters.
Oh, that's,
What are you looking at there? What
This is the last meeting, we went
Oh,
through these.
Okay.
And this is what we recommended to the council, and this is what I brought to them. We met Friday, and we went from 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock, just on this. I was the only person on the agenda.
Huh.
So
Okay.
it was a fun meeting.
so they approved this with the exception of what?
RE should not be there. Moving to accessory buildings.
Hold on, I'm.
Oh, go ahead, I'm
taking
sorry.
notes here.
Sorry about that. I'm going too fast, so we
Oops.
slow down.
No, because I need to know what is it when I'm.
And we're covering, everything I'm talking about now has been rewritten and redone in here with the addition of one item added that the council asked for. So we'll
Okay.
get to that.
All right,
um,
what's the next?
The next thing was to add accessory building in the MUN area in the table of uses. In Appendix A.
All right, and what happened with that?
Okay, so. Okay,
You
they,
don't have any changes,
no,
you don't have any changes here.
no, they didn't do anything there. They did delete in the entirety of the UDO 2181.2. That was the section that was redundant in the code. Travel trailers,
Okay, but hold on,
recreational.
hold on.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So they approved this?
They did approve this. What we brought to them was
And
the
then
removal of this
page two?
section, because it was already in the code and enforceable through the code. It was redundant in the UDO, so we removed it.
So
They
that
approved
was
that.
removed.
They did approve it. All right, Village Business District,
Okay, hold on. Is
Go
there
ahead, I'm sorry.
something else here?
no,
This is the one?
that's the whole section there.
What is
Yeah,
redundant?
this is for the next one. This is the statement for the next one, yeah. And I started numbering them too, Teresa, so we'll have a break.
Okay.
I'm getting there. VBD, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. Basically, they agreed with most of it, but they asked me to rewrite it and then write something in addition for the recreational district to marry those up for fencing, for, what you can and cannot have out in public view. So we'll go through that in a minute. That is on the
Okay,
new
so
pages.
this is rewritten.
That's rewritten, yes. So, I'm trying to hold up. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to modular homes, we recommended a change in the UDO for modular homes on a list. Basically, they said, why don't we just take out modular homes from the UDO? Just remove it from the definitions. We don't need it.
Take out definitions,
Yep,
take out?
they took, modular homes out of the definitions.
Okay,
Because a modular home is, under the North Carolina state statutes, is a single-family home.
okay, so.
So they just
so
said
we're-
remove it.
We're good.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
modular homes are permitted, but not specifically because they fall under a different definition.
they're permitted because they are, under the North Carolina general statutes, they're a single-family home, not a manufactured home. That's the only
Okay.
reason, yeah. Because they're built to North Carolina code and standard, you can't exclude them. Where are we at? Modular home, take that out. Are you ready?
Yes,
Okay, you will notice that, barn dominiums is not anywhere because that was outright rejected.
they're out?
They're
No,
out.
they don't want
Wait,
them anywhere?
they're not allowing the barn dominium to be built in this community?
Correct. They
kidding?
voted and they, not anywhere, not the ETJ, not
Why
anywhere.
not? Did they say?
You can build a barn dominium to the standards that are in the UDO currently. You're welcome to build something like that, a style of home, but you have to use the like materials that are in the UDO. You cannot build a real barn dominium, which would be starting with a metal frame building and then building out from there. That is not allowed in the ETJ, in any part of the village. No. We had recommended them for a very, very low density area out in the ETJ, RF 200, you know, the EU, in the hobby farm areas, things like that. But they did not want them anywhere in the community. So that was denied.
So hold on.
Go ahead.
This
Did the city council get the pictures that I had taken of the barn dominium in Pinehurst number 6?
Yes, and not only that, when I walked in, I was given this by the council. Oh, and that is the Wikipedia page for barn dominiums, and she said, you showed me really pretty ones. This is what people will build. And my argument was, if someone is planning to pay $30,000 an acre, which is the going price for the land out in the ETJ, they have priced me out of farming. So if they're willing to pay $30,000 an acre, I don't think they're going to build an eyesore. But, you know, ultimately,
never know.
I don't make those decisions. That's right, you never know. So,
Let me, can I see?
this is what I was given and told that was their justification for not allowing them, because you don't know. That is technically a barn dominium as well.
Gee, all the stuff that I've seen, I've never seen one.
I've never seen one like that either. And they have, like I brought the pictures of number 6 and the ones that I have seen around our community and in our area.
The
and
first
they
time
just
that
said
I ever saw one was a video of the millionaires in Texas were building them.
And Wyoming.
Millionaires.
Yeah.
But you could build
You
that
can still
style.
build a style. It's not technically a barn dominium
Right.
though. A barn dominium starts with that's what sets it apart from any other build. You can do that style. You just have to use wood
Right.
exterior.
You can make it look like
You
the-
can make it look like what barn dominiums look like, but you cannot have metal sheeting of any kind.
Is there a definition for what a barn dominium is?
Yes, I actually pulled a barn dominium, also known as a barndo, is a metal or wood pole barn post frame, or barn-like structure with sheet metal or wood siding that has been partially or fully converted to a single-family residence, or a combination of barn/residential living area. That's the actual definition of barn dominium. So you can still build something like that, you just can't do it with metal sheeting. So, you know, you can still do the style of home, you just cannot use that metal sheeting. So technically it would just be a house.
Yeah,
Did they have?
barn dominium style.
Yeah.
Did they have this ahead of time?
Mhm. Okay, moving on to detached garages, they asked us to rewrite that section, and we replaced a couple things, we're gonna cross over that tonight. The swimming pool piece, prohibiting, filling with metered water, that passed.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, sorry.
That means you can now fill your swimming pool
No,
or
you cannot, you cannot. Yeah.
Is that only through this situation we're in, or forever?
No, that's forever.
Okay, here.
And we did that, I apologize, we worked on that while you were out. We put in there that, and I'm just gonna read through, it's prohibited to fill a swimming pool using Foxfire Village metered water system. All pools should be initially filled to a height, and, you know, goes through height, blah, 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 but it has to be done through a commercial service. I think Cox or Cole, I think it was Cole Water Service, that's who we had fill our pool. They will come and fill your pool. It cost us, I think, $700 to fill our whole pool, and they did it in 2 trips with a big old tanker truck. But they go and they pay for that water from another municipality. They don't take it from the water tanks here or anything of that nature. They pay for it. They've got some deal worked out with the county of how they pay for it, and then they bring it to you. So it's not a hardship to the community to not be able to fill your pool with a water hose. You simply just, when you do your pool, you know you can't fill it with metered water. It's actually to your benefit, because I'm sure the water here is not inexpensive. And two, it takes, what, a couple days to fill up a pool if you do it with a water hose? It took a good 3 hours, and that was travel time. Like, they dumped the first, they went and filled up again, came back and dumped the second.
So when someone comes to the offices here
Mhm.
for a permit for the pool, they're telling them you can't use your...
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that is, in order to get the permit going forward, in order to get the final, after you build a pool, you still get a CO, Certificate of Occupancy, you get that from the county. The county won't issue that until you can show a receipt showing that you got it filled up with a commercial filler.
Okay, was this language also approved? The pool fence must be
Yes.
complete?
Yep, pool fence must be complete and in full working order prior to initially filling the water, or filling, you know, yeah, that was approved. Basically, that's just a common sense thing.
So a pool has to have a fence around it, you can't have just the monitors on your doors that go out to the backyard?
North Carolina law says you have to have it fenced.
Okay.
That's just in North Carolina. You have to have a pool fence, yeah.
We didn't have to do that in California.
You didn't have to fence the pool area?
No, we just had to have alarms on the doors that went out to the pool.
What about people
Like your
wandering
neighbors,
into the
like
yard?
little kids.
We had 2 Rottweilers, nobody wandered into our backyard.
I would just, because I know in New York, you had to have the
No,
fence.
we didn't.
Yeah, in North Carolina, you do have to have a fence. We have had some discussion about how far that fence has to be. But to my understanding, it can be the perimeter of your yard is a sufficient enough fence to keep out anything that would come in. But that was approved. And then the last piece was the recommending, that basically came straight from the insurance provider.
The special events?
Yep, the special events, and all they asked us to do at the end of that was to not state it this way, to put bullet points. So we just added number 6, the following items are prohibited on village property: trampolines, moon bounce houses, inflatable amusement devices, and other similar equipment. That literally came from the insurance, had sent a flyer to Lisa saying these are things that we will not cover you for. If they're on your property, you know, we can deny you coverage. So we put it in here.
What do you mean on their property? I thought we just couldn't do it at the park.
That's
Oh, I see.
municipal property.
Okay.
Yep, and
They
then
can do it in their own backyard.
absolutely. But council recommended we add municipal, and Lisa's gonna add that, cause it was a minor correction, or like a minor thing. So instead of regulation of outdoor special events on public property, it will say municipal property, cause all of that's in the MUN district. So that would, anywhere that belongs to the village, you can't have any of those things on it.
Is MUN short for municipal?
It is. All right, so now that we're through that,
You're going to
let's
touch
go through the
Roger?
actual, let's start with number one. This is old business.
Okay, but are we doing the Dutch garages here?
Let's start with number one.
Which number one?
This number, flip your page.
Oh,
up.
this?
Yeah. There you go. All right, so now that we have what was done on the 11th, this is basically everything they asked us to do. With the addition of the last page, there was an additional thing that we didn't even recommend that they asked us to do.
Did we just go over this?
No, this is the changes that they asked us to do. So this is what this is, and we need to approve the wording because we did, so far, they're larger changes and we have not, we haven't approved these. We need to go through each one and approve it for
Why do
recommendation
we
again.
need to approve it when they're already deciding what they want?
They ask us to come back, and each section they ask, like I have 3 pages of notes, and they ask us to come and take another, just like we did with this, same thing.
I mean, we might as well just say, hey, fine, no problem. What's the,
Legal, I'm with you.
I mean.
I don't know what you want me to
just
say.
put it in-
Well,
So basically, we're just rubber stamping what they said.
That's,
that
yeah,
part,
so I don't feel,
Because we don't have a say in changing it, because if we
Okay.
try to change, or if we deny it, they're just gonna say,
yeah, but what's the
Yeah.
point of bringing it back and for us to do it when they're the ones that are making the decision?
they're
I
the
mean,
ones that make decisions
I respect the
anyway.
fact that they have to make a decision, I don't see why we need to go through this and have even any discussion about it.
because they didn't wanna write it out.
They make the decision whether or not to approve, and we make the recommendation. And basically, I'm bringing back their recommendations to the board, but we do have to legally approve to recommend,
What if,
because these are new recommendations.
if we said we don't agree with what they're doing
But
here,
it's not
would
like
they,
we
is there a
can't-
process that they have to go through then to change it?
I don't, I have to ask Lisa, let me ask Lisa that one, but if we
Right.
don't agree, we don't have to recommend it,
Right, so, I mean,
And they're still
so we
approving
could be.
anyway, so what's the big?
but we don't have to.
It's just a matter, I mean, if we don't agree with the fencing,
Mhm.
and we just say this is not right, you know, we don't believe that this is right, we can say we are not.
We don't recommend
We're
it.
not recommending it, but
Mhm.
they can override it anyway and just do it, but then it's on them.
That is correct. But if we look at anything on here that's written, that they ask us to do, and we say no, we feel strongly we don't agree with this, I'm not recommending it to
Right.
them. Period. We have a voting board just like they have a voting board. And I don't wanna get into opposition.
Right, no.
I don't wanna get into a situation where we're arguing amongst, between the council and
Right.
us, that's not a good look. But if there's something we feel strongly that is not for the community, we are the planning and zoning board and we do not recommend it. Period.
Okay,
It's
so.
it's political.
And without our recommendation, they're gonna have to find somewhere else to get it on the books.
Okay,
Well,
so-
can't they just say that they're gonna,
I don't know. From a legal standpoint, that's what I have to ask Lisa about,
because
because I don't know.
because why, I mean, I know what Teresa says all the time, is that then why are we even doing what we're doing if they can
Mhm.
just do what they want?
I don't think that that's the situation, but I want a final on that.
Right, and
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand you saying that we can say we're not approving this.
Yeah, I mean, there's one on the very end that I don't feel great about.
Okay, so, I'm
but-
sorry to interrupt, but
Mhm.
for instance.
Well, let's go through them and then you can,
No, but
then you can put on
Okay,
for
but this
each
is a
one.
good example of what we can use for everything else. This residential playground equipment is in response to the permanent basketball, right? Right. So it says, playground equipment is permissible in both the side and backyards. So in the actual yard, does that mean you can put a basketball hoop
Yep,
A
they said,
permanent
they
one.
said they don't care what you do in your backyard or your side yard, that's your business.
And how would you, I mean, I'm just trying to figure
No,
out.
so a
So
pole, a permanent
permanent.
pole can go on the side or in the back, just not in your front.
You'd have to pour a concrete pad. And if you still feel strongly enough about putting in a basketball goal, you can put a basketball court in your backyard, there's no rule against it.
Right, so they just don't want it in the front yard.
Correct.
Well, no, it's not just the front yard, because we never said, she never said, oh, this thing never said.
No, basically,
It says
they're
side
saying,
or rear.
their basic thing was, we put that you can have it attached to the home, they don't want any of that,
No.
nothing can be attached. And,
Why would you want it?
yeah,
Well, a lot of
And then
people
you
just
can put
put
what
their
you
hoop
want.
on their garage,
that's
right?
what I was thinking,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Cause
something
it's
like
not
that.
permanent, your kids are home for how long?
Right.
As you, like, my kids are, I've got 2 left at home, like, one's 13 and the other one is finishing college, so they have a basketball hoop out in the yard. I didn't put up a permanent hoop because my 13-year-old in
Thinking they're tired.
3 years is gonna be driving a car and he's gonna care less about that hoop.
Right.
But I'm not looking at it forever, cause the second those bad boys are out of there, I'm gonna be done with it for a while, and then my grandkids are gonna come and trump everything, so I'll put it back up.
Okay,
But,
So let's go through them.
okay, so let's go through, let me finish, writing this, cause I have this, I wanna make sure I ask Lisa this, I do want an answer to this.
It sounds like any objections is simply for the record, but there's no remedy necessarily if it's overruled by the council.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
how it works legally. I have no idea. I know that everything we do, with the exception of very minimum, like there's a couple little changes we make when we vote on these things that don't have to go to public hearing. And that's what we're working up to. That's why they wanted all this stuff back ASAP, because they've set a public hearing for December.
Oh,
And so I don't, I guess that's where the meat and potato, that's where the rubber really meets the road with the community.
yeah.
So, anyway, okay, let's go through each one. Number 1, residential playground equipment. Basically, they wanted the wording to be in a separate section. Instead of, you know how now it's only in one spot in the UDO, playground equipment is only in one section, it's hard to find, it's in the building height and setback and lot dimension requirements.
That's weird.
It's really straight, that's the only place in our UDO that has playground equipment in it. So they asked for a separate section with the and they didn't, they basically said, just make it in a separate section, we're not doing, permanent basketball goals in the front yard, and we're not doing it on the house. So from that, I wrote this, and we can absolutely add to this. This is just the starting point. I think I said that last time we all met. It's a starting point, and we can change the wording if so moved, but,
I need clarification.
Sure.
And now, because since it's not attached now to the house,
yep.
and it says that it has, equipment location must meet all zoning front, back, and side setbacks. What does that mean?
Any kind of equipment you put in, permanent or
Okay, what does that mean in terms of setbacks?
setbacks for like in your building setbacks. Like where you can put a building, where you can put a accessory building, where you can put anything. You have to meet setback requirements. You can't set it on the line, like you can't put a swing set on your property line. You have to meet the setbacks that are in table 2161. You get there.
Why wouldn't they have put basketball courts
That's with, that's.
in this front? Why
Yeah, why
does
did
it
they
say
say it
not?
in the front here?
Well, it
What's
says
that mean?
playground equipment, but not limited to swing sets, trampolines, sandboxes, jungle gym slides, and similar equipment. Why didn't they add?
Because similar equipment covers everything.
But you would think basketball court would be the one that's,
That's a similar equipment.
Okay, but it also says equipment location must meet all zoning front. If they don't want it in the front, who cares what the front is?
That, we can take it out. That's where I put front, but we can take that out.
Okay, can you? pull
It
the
doesn't need
sheet?
to.
You have it right there?
I do,
Because I'm trying to figure out where,
I need the table.
What are we taking out?
where it says in the red zoning front, there's no need to put it, it's like.
There's no need for front because nothing's
this
allowed
has
in
the
the front.
table, so I can't do it.
It's in 2168, the table's right below that,
Yeah,
so
I
that's,
don't have it in.
I got it, hold on, I'll pull it up.
I don't have it on the.
Can you
6'8". I
figure
gotcha.
out, for instance,
Here you go.
let's say, can you figure out on my,
What's
on
your,
my
what's
lot?
your zoning?
Okay, I'm the 20?
20. Okay, so your side setback is 30 feet, your rear setback is 40 feet.
Okay, so where am I supposed to put this then?
It
Let's
can't
say I
be,
want-
it can't be within 30 feet of the line or 40 feet of the line. Like if we're looking at your, let's say we're looking at GIS and we're looking at your lot, and we're looking at the front door of your house,
Right.
and we're looking at your lot, and I don't know that your lot is,
It's super irregular.
well, I mean, it's a regular lot, but let's say it's a regular old triangle or
Yeah.
rectangle for, these purposes. On this, it can be in the side, it can be in the rear of your home, any playground equipment, but it has to meet the setbacks. You can't put it within 30 feet of that setback on this side, 40 feet on the setback in
Okay,
the
so it's
back.
only the setbacks, but not, it doesn't matter if I put it right next to my house.
No. Put it where you want to, as
So
long as
let's
it
go,
meets the
let's say
setbacks.
that I want to now have a basketball hoop.
Guess what?
I guess I can make it permanently
As
right
long
next
as it's
to my
not
house.
attached to your home.
Isn't that weird?
No,
I thought it was not attached to the front of the home.
I was
No,
thinking
forget
side
the front.
garages is what I was thinking, like to be able to have, like if you have a side garage, you
Okay.
just put a basketball goal
And that
up
wouldn't be
there.
a
But
home.
so,
Yeah.
If you put it on the garage, it wouldn't be considered.
all right,
a home.
so let's look at
Technically, it's
it.
in the footprint. It is on the.
So-
But that's on the
home.
side of your house.
So let's
Right, so
say
if
in
you
my
had a garage, you wanna
case,
put a
if
foot
I
in,
do
technically
it
it's not your
within so,
Mhm.
let's say this is my wall,
Then we
Yeah.
have an
and I have the
appraisal
basketball
part of-
hoop right next to my house.
Just
It's
look
So
at
in
it's
the
about
side
the
yard.
same thing.
It's in the side yard.
I need a
It doesn't make any sense. Do you follow me? It doesn't make any sense, because I cannot have it attached to the house, but I can have it 2 feet away from my house.
Yes,
Yes.
in the back.
In
Just
the
not
back
in the
or
front.
the side.
Oh, on the side, just not,
Yeah.
they just don't want it in the
What
front.
we had recommended,
No, they don't want it attached to the sheet.
Or
No,
attached,
it can't
right.
be attached.
Right, or attached.
but what we had originally recommended was allowing the permanent basketball hoop on the driveway. To be,
But on the
that,
side, you
on-
never said in
well,
the
it was to
front.
the side, it was to the side, and it was the front, but to the side of the front. It still came further than that far angle wall, you know what I'm talking about, like the far edge of your home. It still came past that. But it can't come past that. It has to be the side or the back. We had recommended being able to capitalize and use the garage, or use the
Yeah,
driveway.
the situation you had was not necessarily visible from outside.
Right,
But if I put it 2 feet away from my house,
That is
on the
permissible.
side, it's visible from my
Does
as
this
long
need
as
a
it meets
permit
setbacks.
also?
That's
I'm
right.
sorry,
Does this need a permit also?
not that I know of.
So does someone have to come out and see where you're gonna put something before you put it?
No, they're just gonna say something that didn't in front of your house.
Right.
If it's in the front of your house, somebody's gonna complain and then you'll get
No,
cited.
it's, but, okay, so the point is that.
You're
what if you
overthinking
have-
it.
I'm overthinking it because I'm seeing what's the difference between this and.
Because it's just the front, they just don't want it doesn't matter if your side of your house is
Right,
2 inches
so
from your
what
front
happens-
yard.
What
it's
happens if you
considered
have a
setback.
corner lot?
Right, so it's on the side, it's stupid, but if it's, they just don't want it in
If
your
you have a
front.
corner lot, and you
Yes.
bought a corner
Right.
lot, then you have a backyard and you have a side yard.
Where are they gonna say your side starts?
Okay.
So I mean, if you put the,
It has to be past the front corner of your house,
right,
that's your side
so
yard.
it could be a foot within there.
Could be
But
wherever.
Rick, you just
just
said the
can't
word,
come
it's
into the
stupid.
Right, it's nitpicking, but.
All right.
We already have in the existing UDO, equipment shall not be placed in front yards. That was always there. That's already in the UDO.
So
We're
what's
not
the-
arguing this.
All right.
They're saying you can't go forward from that, you has to be the side yard or backyard. We said, and they rejected the ability to put a basketball goal in the driveway in the front or toward the front of the house.
They
And you
rejected
can't-
the attached to the house.
And past the front of the house. Because I was saying, when we sent this up, our argument was that presentation that we saw had the additional piece put on the driveway, and that was to the front of the house, but to the side. So if you're standing at the front yard of that house, and you've got the front corner here, that basketball goal was over
All
here.
right, so you're taking out front.
So I took out front, I'll do that.
Okay, well, that takes care of my,
You're not gonna put a basketball court
I'm not
I
putting
can't-
it, I'm just saying.
All right, let's go on to number 2, please.
I'm playing the
Do we
devil's
have,
advocate
we
here,
have to
how
vote on it?
ridiculous
Are
it
you making a
is.
motion to approve?
Yes.
I'm so second.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
this is,
Number 2. That's an easy one.
okay, so who's the second?
Until the end.
Yeah,
Who's the second?
I was the second.
All right,
Number 2 is just to add MUN to the Appendix A accessory building, so.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Rick, seconded by Kim. All right, so, 3. Right, this is kind of a redo a little bit, but they did make a couple changes. The village council would like to see in the village business district, let's tackle that first, and then we'll chew on the rest of it. Village business district, what's existing, on page 2, you'll
well,
see.
we're talking about some fences, right?
Yep.
But the village business district is just the general store.
Right now, but also includes something else. It could grow over the years.
Okay.
So basically, we're talking about the commercial area in our area.
Does that
Here, this is considered commercial too,
This
right?
is MUN, this is municipal. That, the village, right now, the store is the only thing, I think, I think the triangle is part of it too. I think it is, that is also commercial zone, or,
How about that storage corner with all the golf cart equipment?
we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
We'll get there, we're getting there, let's chugga along. Okay, village business district, most of this you have already seen. The only thing that has changed here is instead of maximum height at 15 feet, they backed it down to 6 feet because they wanted to see dumpsters in a totally different section.
Okay,
And
I'm sorry, where are you? Dumpsters shall be completely enclosed, where are you?
right here, where we had everything in one spot, this is what we had recommended. That's everything in one section. They asked us to break dumpsters out and to add some photos for reference. And so here are our first little photos in our UDO, y'all. First little examples. We're moving on up in the world. So, and I don't know that this is kind of what they described they wanted to see, but we'll work through it. The only change up top was instead of where we had 15 feet to encompass dumpsters, right here,
Hours, yeah?
they changed it to, they wanted it to go back to 6 feet for loading docks, donation boxes, and similar facilities. Then we moved down below, section A, dumpsters got their own whole section.
Okay, hold on, but I'm seeing here less than 5 feet tall, what is,
That's the planting. Plantings can't be less than 5 feet at planting.
Okay,
and they need to
15
be-
down to what then?
6 feet ended up over here, maximum height of 6 feet, right in here. You see that? That was 15 feet, we moved that back to 16 feet, so we could add a section for dumpsters totally on its own. Dumpsters shall be completely enclosed with wood or synthetic wood product, Trex or a like material, resulting in an opaque screen that obscures view from the ground to the height of the dumpster to a maximum of 15 feet.
Shouldn't there be a minimum too?
From the ground,
I mean, why would you want a 1-foot fence to hide a dumpster?
it has to be, like, dumpsters shall be completely enclosed with wood or a synthetic wood, like you can use Trex decking,
Okay,
resulting in an opaque screen that obscures view from the ground to the height of the dumpster
oh, okay.
to a maximum of 15 feet.
Okay.
All dumpsters, donation boxes, or similar facilities shall be placed on a level and impervious surface.
All right, well, this one seems okay.
Motion
All right.
to
I
accept.
move.
Oh, she beat you. You better second.
Second.
All right,
Moving
so
on.
that is so approved. Let's look at recreational district. Same wording. Let's read through this carefully to make sure this is what we want.
Okay,
But,
but we're talking about recreational district, not meaning like,
like that
The
big
golf
building
course?
that's right over there on the road.
oh, like that, our wonderful
Mhm.
eyesore.
So, this reads, recreational district, this will be a new ad, new section. Fences visible from public streets or which abut residential zoning shall be of wood, that's all the
Okay, but
same.
this is just for the dumpster,
No, it's not.
Fence?
It's for the entire, listen,
yes.
fences visible from public streets or which abut residential zoning shall be of wood, stone, brick, wrought iron, aluminum, powdered, coated aluminum, PVC, or a combination of these materials, with the decorative side of the fence facing outward. Fence slash walls that abut residential zoning may be of vinyl coated chain link if screened with view obscuring plant materials not less than 5 feet at the time of planting and reach the desired full height within 5 years. Fences, walls, plantings, or any combination of shall result in an opaque screen that obscures views from the ground to the height of the object being screened or a maximum height of 6 feet, or shall be erected to directly screen loading docks, commercial storage, maintenance facilities, maintenance materials, donation boxes, or similar facilities from public view. No dumpsters, donation boxes, maintenance facilities, or similar facilities shall be kept in open or exposed view from residential lots, streets, or sidewalks. The dumpster wording is added in a total different section. That is the same as in VBD. The whole dumpster has to be enclosed in a wood or wood tile product. All dumpsters, donation boxes, or similar facilities shall be placed on a level and impervious surface. Impervious apron shall be added to the entrance and exit of driveway or parking lot where rock, sand, or stone is used.
Okay,
So in this residential district, we're allowing powder coated aluminum, but we're not, in this recreational district, but not in residential.
Right, that's a commercial area, and if they have a spot that does not abut a residential lot, they can have a powder coated fence.
So if a residential did the powder coated aluminum like this couple that's gonna spend $8,000, why couldn't they do the vegetation that would grow up on their fence and cover
That's a
that?
good question for the council.
And then this one I circled because you said fence height of 6 feet or shall be erected, when it says and.
And, okay. So
Okay,
where's
so
that at?
But this is not
Or
retroactive.
6 feet, you said or, but it says and here.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe it's just a verbal,
Yeah, that was a misread on my part.
okay.
6 feet and shall be erected to directly screen loading docks, commercials.
Okay, but this is another one that I'm gonna play.
Okay,
Okay, recreational district at this point means a golf course.
correct.
But this is not retroactive, which means that in the future, if they want to erect another beautiful building like they did at the corner, then they have to have it screened.
Or
But at this
in the state of
point-
North Carolina, if it changes hands, you have to bring it to code.
Okay, all right, okay, I guess that's a good idea.
Which we hope that
If
it
it's the
is.
same place, the same person buying it, then, or if it's not changing hands, then, and we enact code or zoning, they are retroactive, correct, they're grandfathered in.
So they can.
But,
Yeah.
when the new person buys, or they ever change hands, that's when this zoning applies, and they
Okay.
have to bring it to code,
I'm happy to.
or
hear
bring it
that.
to zoning,
I'm happy to hear that.
We're knocking down.
whichever or, either or,
I'm happy to hear that,
so,
because it talks about maintenance facilities,
maintenance materials.
commercial storage or similar, so we're talking about, because at this point, I have sent pictures to
I
my
think-
dear friend here. And, it's totally like a parking lot in the front there too. All right, I move for this one too.
I second it.
We are moving right
I'm
along.
gonna third that.
You're gonna third it?
Yeah, I think we all
Ken's gonna
wanna see
third.
something done with that.
Especially because, isn't it that they're selling it?
I believe so.
Okay, good. All right. I guess I'm gonna have a drink over this time. Sorry, I didn't say, I'm not having it here, okay, just water.
And number 5 is basically just the recommendation to remove modular home from section 2116-1 in accordance with the recommendation from the village council. Instead of adding it to a thing, we're just gonna remove it from the
That's fine,
definitions, and
that's fine.
that takes care of that.
All right,
Make a motion
another
to
one.
approve that.
Second?
Okay,
Approved and all right, number 6, detached garages. What we had recommended was, they actually took away some of it. We recommended a size restriction, they took away the size restriction. They didn't want to see it with the size restriction.
We had 800 something?
864, I thought, yeah, 864. And none of them could get that to work out to any kind of making sense for a 3-car garage, so that was removed. So you don't have a restriction on how big your garage could be. And they took out, garage doors shall be no closer than 25 feet to any street and should be side or rear facing, and added, detached garage shall be placed in the rear or side yard of the primary residence and should be side or rear if feasible. So it basically, we took out one section and added to this section.
Which seems weird, because back to being my situation, you know.
They took out the 25 feet requirement and the size of the garage requirement. So on your irregular lot, you
I
can
can
build whatever
build-
size
I
garage
mean,
you
my
feel like
entire-
it, the whole rest of the perimeter, but you gotta follow the setbacks.
Yes.
It says garage shall follow all building design standards in 21.6.10.2 and all building height and setback requirements set forth in
All right.
21.6.8.
Okay, that's fine.
Motion to approve.
Second, Rick. Okay.
Who's second it?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
You took out 7.
I took out 7 because I have a legal question. I was asked to add something into, or change a definition, or think about changing a definition, to add single family residence to the ETJ, area.
Oh, okay, okay. I
And
see.
I don't think that that can be legally done, because ETJ is not just families, it's not just houses. We have solar farms, we have commercial nursery landscaping, we have hobby farm, we have all kinds of stuff. I'm a bona fide farm, like, and there's a lot of different things, there's a lot of different encompasses in the ETJ. And we already have some stipulation in RA 5 that allows for a bed and breakfast style place. So I think that needs to have some further discussion with legal and some of the North Carolina general statutes. So I'm gonna have to do some thinking about that, put my thinking hat on, and I may just have to go back to the council and say, hey, this is not legal. We cannot do that. So I'm not sure what the motivation behind that was, other than maybe not to have apartment buildings out in the ETJ, but I don't know that's not really allowed anyway according to our table of authorized uses. If you go down the table of authorized uses, that's not allowed. So I don't know what the motivation was. That was after about 2.5 hours of back and forth. So, you know, I'm gonna have to research that a little bit more. So I took out a number 7. 8 is, and this was not something we'd ever talked about, and the council brought it up and wanted to see some changes made to our short-term rentals, to bring that more in line with what Pinehurst did. Pinehurst has basically made it where you have to have, okay, so they wrote zoning, and I have to be clear about this because they've been warned by a law group. I'm not a fan of what we're going into right now. I'll just be right up front and honest with that. I don't want to see our neighborhood turn into a bunch of commercially owned homes that are rental properties. But I also have a real proclivity about not telling people what they can and cannot do with their properties, and outside of an HOA. If you live in an HOA, you bought into that HOA and you know what you're doing when you did it. So it's a little different when we write coding later on down the road, or zoning, not code, but zone, that says you can or cannot do certain things. What was asked was to look at what Pinehurst did in their short-term rentals. They did this in October of 2022, and it has survived. And I think it's survived long enough for other village councils to come together and go, okay, they've done it in a way that didn't put them in a lawsuit, let's do it the same way. And that's basically what this wording says. basically what we already have in our UDO for the use and I'll just go ahead and tell you what the village's request was, is to make, unless you have an existing property that was built to do this, to be a STR or a short-term rental. If you bought that property for that to be a commercial or investment business, that can go forward and still be used as a commercial business. It still can be. But if you do not have one, the new zoning would say that it's permissible only in the RM, which is all of our, RM is all around, let me see, where's RM?
What the golf course
Yeah,
is?
it's the tree houses and the condos. And basically what the council would like to see is the short-term rentals brought to the condo area and less in our single-family residence area. And I can see some of it. Where I grate a little bit is telling somebody what they can and can't do with their home during a US Open. And I think we found a compromise. So, and I think Pinehurst has a good compromise. So,
I'm with you, I agree. It's a hard thing to tell somebody what they can do, but I also see the problems of neighbors, you own your house and there's a party house.
well,
next to
where
you.
I was turned around was that, and then two, and I'm just gonna be right up front, sex offender laws don't cover short-term rentals. So if you rent a short-term rental and you go on vacation and you're a sex offender, there could be children right next door to you in a residential, single-family home that has no understanding that you're there. Your predator is right there. That's the worst-case scenario. You're never supposed to do worst-case scenarios. But that's kind of how I came around to thinking about what the other side is looking at.
So is the only district that they're saying the short-term rentals will be allowed is basically around the golf course there?
For in the village. And let's read through it just so we're all there. But basically, the first part of the UDO did not change in any way. Basically defines what a dwelling is, what a short-term rental is. It's anybody renting a single-family home or any property for a period of less than 90 days. And then I added STRs because short-term rental and STRs is that's the current verbatim. That's what people are using as a short-term rental.
Well, short-term rental is less than 90 days, right?
Anything less than 90 days is short-term rental. So a dwelling unit is occupied or held ready for occupancy on a short-term basis if the dwelling unit is rented or offered for rent or otherwise occupied for 90 days or less, and are permissible in the following zone districts: RM, RA5, RE, RF200, EU. That's what I added because I don't know that, and I could not find anywhere where an ETJ was told they could not have short-term rentals. That I could not find. All of the lawsuits, the federal rulings, everything had to do with the municipality. Wilmington was the latest one in North Carolina, and the law firm was actually able to overturn their zoning and find it unconstitutional. So this same law firm actually sent Pinehurst a letter and warned them that they were on thin ice, that they were, in danger of getting toward that constitutional break. But thus far, they have not sued them. So they must be okay right now, and that's kind of where our zoning is coming from. So they asked for RM, but they were not thinking of the ETJ. When I went back and researched everything, I could not find
What is
where.
RM?
Do what?
What is RM?
RM is the condos, tree houses. RM is residential multiple. What is RM? I'll find it in wording. Let me see. RM. It's in RM everywhere. RM residential. That's what they call it, RM residential.
Is that, I can't find that map on the web. Is that map on there, the zoning map?
Residential multiple unit dwelling. I don't know where it could be. I don't have it anywhere. At one time it was in the non-codified stuff, but I can't find it now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Residential multiple unit dwelling.
Okay.
So
That's
does
what
that
RE
mean
is.
more than one unit?
Correct. That's the condos, the tree houses, all of that very light blue, all around, like,
Yeah.
on the front of the, where the golf course is, and then there's a little bit like down here where the clubhouse is, there's like another section. Mainly, it's just RM, or just the condos, and what we all would say condos in the area. I added in there, and I, of course, wanting to talk to you guys about it, I added in there, we can change RA5, RF200 EU. My basic thought behind adding those into allowable districts is not wanting to mess with the very low density area. I don't see a reason why it should not be allowed in the ETJ.
So what are those? RM you just described. So
Yeah,
what are the rest
everything
of these?
else is in the ETJ, outside of the village proper.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, everything else
The
there is.
RA5?
RA5 is all ETJ.
Oh, so they're all the other ones.
RE, RF200, EU, and RA5 are all very low density lots, large lots.
That's
I
good.
didn't see why we
Because
couldn't have it.
you're not gonna have to worry about a neighbor party or
Right.
whatever it is.
Exactly. So owners of dwelling units used for short-term rental purposes may register with the village clerk and receive a copy of chapter 42, blah, blah, blah. And then this is all stuff that's in our existing UDO.
This part here is because my sister-in-law lives in Pinehurst,
Mhm.
and, we've talked about this short-term rentals there, and I don't know if they have this, which I think is really good to have in there, that the owners have to live within 30 miles.
Yeah,
Because a lot of them, they were saying people, from California, you can never get a hold of them if there's a problem, or there's parties, and, you never got a hold of the owners. So this is requiring that the owner live within 30 miles that they can respond
right.
to something that's.
They need to have available 24 hours a day. So if
That's
somebody,
good.
let's say somebody does rent out even their condo,
Right.
and they have a party, or there's more than 60, like, it's
The party,
obvious
right.
there's some stuff going on. You hear horror stories all the time about short-term rentals,
Yeah.
but the owner has to be able to respond.
And you need that 24-hour
And
person.
it doesn't have to be the owner living 30 miles, it could be an owner's representative.
Right.
Somebody
That's
has to
good.
manage that property
Right.
24
That's
hours a
very
day. And then let's go to non-conforming use. That is a whole new section. Non-conforming use, within Foxfire Village existing STRs prior to December 31st, that date is gonna change to when this gets codified.
But
Whatever date this is codified.
It's still related to the STRs.
Yes, yeah, it is, this is the, and let's just read it and then you'll understand what it is. Within Foxfire Village, existing STRs prior to December 31st, 2024 in zones RS20, RS30, RS40, WS may apply for a non-conforming use permit. A non-conforming use permit may be issued by the Foxfire Village Administrator that will confirm the right to continue usage as an STR if the owner can provide sufficient proof that the residence was originally purchased/built for this purpose and has not been removed from this STR purpose for 120 days or more. The non-conforming use permit shall describe the nature and extent of the zoning non-conformity and is an acknowledgement by the Foxfire Village that the use was within permitted zoning use at the time of construction and prior to the adoption of the new zoning ordinance, and is therefore allowed to remain as long as there is no cessation of use as an STR. So if they stop using it as an STR and rent it for long term, it's no longer a short-term rental. So this kind of meets the middle of the road. This gives the people that already have STRs in the community, they have bought investment homes here, lots of them were bought in 2020, where people are going up against, issue, it's always about the money. If they've bought an investment home to use as a short-term rental, and they are told they cannot due to new zoning law, that's where the lawsuit comes in. So this gives the people that are using their home, they have an
Already
investment,
existing.
yeah, they bought it, and it is used as a short-term rental, existing. It's there, it exists, they can get a non-conforming use, but the second that they sell that property and they can transfer the non-conforming use to another investment partner. But once it becomes a long-term rental, that's it. It's no longer a short-term rental. At that point, if you're in that RS20, RS30, RS40 WS, that that cannot be used as short-term rental any longer.
And
It
there's-
falls out.
Is there a problem with that now? I mean, is there a lot that are done in Foxfire that are?
I think we have a couple in the residential area. Most of them are in the golf places.
But it's something that we don't really have
I
to
think
worry
there
about.
might be like 4.
So that's,
Yeah, it's really not a huge thing. Again, my trepidation with this is I'm not a fan of telling people what to do on their property, and this is a big jump. We don't have anything saying that people can't rent their houses
Right.
out. Now we're gonna have something saying that. But the ends justify the means.
But there's a difference between the short-term rental and a rental, so
Oh, yeah.
so my husband and I bought a home a couple years ago. Let's say a year later, we wanna buy another home,
Mhm.
and we wanna rent that home out, not short-term, but just rent it, that's
Yeah.
allowed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're just talking about short-term.
This is
Right.
only short-term rentals, only like Airbnb,
Right.
VRBO. This does not cover rentals. You can rent, a lot of people do that. They move to the area and they'll rent for, 90 to 120 days just to get their feet wet and figure out where they wanna be. Some people rent before they build a house or while they're building a house. This doesn't eat into any of that.
Okay.
You can have, and I think there's multiple people in this community that own multiple houses. And they are in long-term rental situations. They're not, they don't cause the issues that short-term rentals cause.
So if someone bought one of these short-term, or bought one of these condos.
Yes.
And then resided in there,
Mhm.
once they move out, can they turn it back into a short-term?
Yes, if it's in the RM. It is allowed,
Okay,
it is allowed in the condos, in the RM, which is the condos, the multifamily living, all of those, with the exception of a small amount. My sister owns one of there's like 4 condos right on Richmond Road. My sister owns one of those. That's not in the that's not in
So you have
RM.
to be a little bit, I mean, if you occupy it as a resident, you have to be sure that, you don't obviate the ability to turn it back into a short-term rental.
If it's in that zone, you can make it a short-term rental or a long-term rental. But if you're in zones RS20, RS30, and RS40, which if
Yeah.
you look, that's what I struck through, but
Yeah.
that's the wording in our UDO right now.
Yeah.
Right now, if you're in RS20, RS30, and RS40, you can have a short-term rental.
Yeah.
This would change that. This recommendation will change that, where what we are doing, and effectively, what we're doing is moving short-term rentals out of the single-family living, where our families are, where our retirees are, away from them, and pulling them toward the golf course and the ETJ.
Yeah.
And it basically, it does have a protective feature in that other investment firms can't come in here during a market fluctuation where prices go down, buy up a bunch of houses on a street, and then start renting them to a bunch of golfers that just come into town, don't care what's happening, and act wild and then leave. That it does protect our single-family homes and our single-family streets.
So you said you can transfer the use of the STR if the property is sold, so would that be like a 1031 exchange or doing an investment property to
You
an
can do a
investment
1031
property?
exchange.
Okay.
Absolutely. By definition, an STR home bought for investment property purposes it's a commercial, that's an investment business, not commercial. I don't want to say the wrong thing. It is an investment business, and you can do an even swap. So if somebody in Pinehurst has one that is a short-term rental that has, and Pinehurst, I use their wording for the most of it, their ordinance is unbelievable. It's huge, it's complicated, whereas, therefore, I mean, 4
It's so,
pages
yeah,
of
legal.
ours is
legal.
pretty simple, and I think it's pretty good.
And I just tried to take all of that and use what would apply to our area. Can you think of anything that should be added? Now, the one thing that I had a little bit of a thing of was I kind of felt like, and I wanted to ask the whole group before I even wrote it in there, that US Open should be a consideration, that you should be able to come in any of these districts, any of even if you're not a short-term rental, if you're in RS20, RS30, or RS40, and you want to rent your home for a US Open, you are permitted to, one time a year, rent your home for 14 days. You'd have to come get a permit, but you could rent your home anywhere for 14 days.
I love that.
I don't know, what's your thoughts about that?
Seems reasonable, I mean, is it just the US Open, or is it any tournament in any area?
I felt like just saying the US Open, because we don't know what the future is gonna be.
Yeah.
It could be another big tournament, or
Yeah.
another big event, the Holly Festival, it could be anything that starts to come to our community. I just figured we could leave that part off and say anybody can get a non-conforming use permit from the village administrator for a 14-day block to rent their home on a short
I
term.
think that's important
That's
to
great.
make sure that
Yeah.
you
Just
define the
14 days,
timeframe.
that's it, and you have to define what's gonna happen there. Like,
Yeah.
they have to define, when they get this permit, they have to define what the purpose and what the nature and extent of the conformity is gonna be. So you would, if you have, let's say I'm gonna rent my sister's condo, which is not in the RM. It's in, I think that's RS 30. What's the peak? Is that 40 or 30? I don't know, one of those.
Is this, when it says in here though, like the 16, where is it? I just saw 16 people.
Yes.
That's a party for commercial activity
Maximum
All
of 16
commercial
people,
activities prohibited.
including guests, yep.
on premise events
Now,
are limited.
one of
to-
the problems that they, in Pinehurst was lots of people in the rentals, you know, more than what the house was built for.
I was at a wedding, it was a rehearsal dinner, and I went down there to one of the rentals, that was one of the hot buttons. And if there was over 100 people in that house.
Yeah,
I
and-
can guarantee it.
And
It was
cars, and cars. So would that then, maybe we should, something, because 16 people's a lot.
That's what's in the existing UDO, what's the thought behind that, guys?
I don't think 16's too many.
I think if we're gonna move it to the RM, those houses aren't big enough.
Right, but will that,
But-
they still try to fit people in there?
But for a US Open,
But I don't have a problem because it says STR guests shall comply with all village ordinances, including with regards to noise and unlawful
But
acts.
can you,
Well,
but
plus the
would you want
person who's-
16 people in your house?
I don't think that they would try
Okay,
to,
but-
go ahead, I'm
I
The
sorry.
mean, when
person
you
who's
have a party,
renting the
don't you have
property
16
is
people?
gonna already state what the occupancy limit is. So like my husband and I own a rental condo in Pinehurst. We don't allow more than 5 people in that
Right.
condo. So you're already telling them the rules. If you find out they do, then there's a $500 penalty, right? They have to, you take it out of their deposit. So you as the owner would set up that restriction of how many people.
Right, but is 16 too many?
Well, not if you, let's say you're on your US Opens coming to town, and I'm gonna rent out one of the houses that has 5 bedrooms.
Right,
That can easily sleep 16 people.
but can you, well, like,
If you have a pull-out couch,
Right, so
5 bedrooms, and a sunroom with a pull-out couch, that's
And some
14
people
people,
put
and
4
kids can go on the
single-
floor.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is, it's regarding events, you know, some
On
special
premises.
events. So for instance, I mean, normally, if you have a gathering, don't you have
I think
16
they got
people?
this from.
but they're not staying there for a week or
Okay,
two.
but
That's in the
not what
UDO
it-
already.
That's
I
for
think
the, for
this
a
is
short-term
not-
rental, so
yeah.
if you can have 16 people in a place for 2 weeks.
Hold on, it
No,
doesn't
no,
say
this
that.
is- No, that's not what
It says on-premise events are limited to a maximum of 16 people. So let's say you host a dinner.
Oh,
You,
okay.
it's not saying you can have 16 people staying there.
Right.
On-premise events are limited to maximum of 16 people. So you can have 16 guests.
A party.
You can have a party
Dinner
or an
party,
event,
yeah.
16 people.
But wouldn't, see, now, I'll play devil's advocate, I'd say, hey, it says I can have 16 people staying here.
It doesn't say staying.
Well,
There's nowhere saying
but it doesn't
staying.
say
No, it
can.
says,
But
no, it's-
you're not gonna be able to put more people in there than fire code will allow, or your septic can hold either. You can't put, like, Moore County standards for a septic is 2 per bedroom.
So shouldn't that be somewhere in here?
That's
saying-
that's in the vacation rental and Airbnb, like, they regulate them on how many people they can put in a house.
But does that say for the STRs? That's
No,
the maximum, is that, it should somewhere then say it in there that all, guests should meet Foxfire codes of, you know, occupancy. So if it's 3 bedrooms, it should be top of
So-
6 people.
I'm gonna have to look up,
but isn't there some legal parameters
I
as to
think
what?
vacation rental,
I don't know.
like
Vacation
when you
rentals.
put your things on VRBO or Airbnb, whatever, they have a contract that says how many people you can have in your
Right.
home.
Right.
Like you can't, like if you have a home, like 8 bedrooms, you got 16 people, you can have 16 people.
Right, so, but shouldn't that be in here that says that?
How do we encompass everybody in that though?
Well, just according to your, your house, according to the occupancy rules of your,
Okay.
of your dwelling,
So that needs to be added on, probably in the same spot.
right? Because you
All
don't.
occupancy,
Well, that's gonna be difficult, because we've had a girl's 50th birthday party where we had one room where they had 6 single beds, the room was huge. So even though it's stated as 1 bedroom, it fits 6 single beds for us
Still.
ladies.
all local
But you
occupancy
can't
laws?
base
Yeah.
occupancy by room.
Oh,
Well, you
I
can,
hold on,
because that's what the Foxfire does. So
Right.
Foxfire is saying if you have a 3-bedroom house, you can have more than
It's in
6
there?
people
Yeah.
living in the
Oh,
house.
it's in there, hold on a minute, she found
Right.
it.
On the first page where it says section blah, 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 go down to owners of dwelling units used for short-term rental purposes may
Register
instead of
with the
may,
building
we should
permit.
Ah.
say should register.
Yeah, I agree with that, should, should,
Where is it, so where?
okay.
Owners of dwelling
Owners
units.
to use for short-term rental purposes, instead of may, it says should register with the village clerk and receive a copy of blah, blah, blah.
Or must, not,
Vacational
it should be
or
must,
Okay.
yeah, must.
Vacation rental laws and the short-term rental regulations set forth below.
So you also have to follow the North Carolina, that's gonna cover occupancy laws. That North Carolina 42A, that's what renters that's what, if you have an investment property or a short-term rental, you have to follow those North Carolina laws.
So don't-
Occupancy laws are there,
So don't say may, must.
must. All right, that's
'Cause that
changed to
covers
must.
it then, yeah, so that's
Okay.
good.
All right, and did we catch everything else other than the 14-day rule? So we wanna add 14-day rule.
Where?
I'm gonna add it under non-conforming use. Add a 14-day rule that anyone in,
Oh, for the open.
any
okay.
zone they can apply for a non-conforming use permit and rent their home for 14 days each calendar year.
So you're gonna say add 14-day rule for special community events, or you're just gonna say for the
No,
US Open?
I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna say that you
One time a
can
year.
get a 14-day, if you're in any zone, you can get a 14-day non-conforming use permit
Once a year.
that would allow you, one calendar year, that would allow you to use your home as a short-term rental for an event, or, I don't even know if I'm gonna put an
Perfect.
event on there.
No,
No,
For any
do it
reason
14
you want, we
day
can't
rule.
say,
once a calendar year.
right, and people
Yeah.
will do it
Yeah.
for the open or for any major
like, it
PGA
could be
Tour
anything,
or-
like if there's some kind of, let's say the US Open comes, I mean, if we
Right.
say US Open, sometimes
But
that's
you have
separate.
to, but you have to
Hopefully we
vote
get
for it.
a good
You
owners
have to
for
get
the
a
new golf course here.
non-conforming- Yeah.
And then we have our open here.
There could be something, like, let's say somebody buys
Very
the,
unlikely.
they buy this golf course and make
Right.
it a hit,
Right.
and then they have a big tournament
Right.
here, a lot of people may wanna capitalize on that, may not want, like, when the US Open comes, I skedaddle out of town. I don't wanna be anywhere near this place.
It wasn't that bad.
That's what everybody says. I went to the
I went to
shopping
Alaska.
booth.
I went to Alaska.
I went out west. I would say
Okay, do we have to approve this?
Yes,
All right, yes, motion. Who
Motion
wants
to
move?
approve.
I second.
Okay, Rick,
We got through the whole list.
Look at us.
okay.
Holy moly, we might get to new business next time.
Okay, well, I must say that except for 2 things, I guess the rest was okay.
Okay. Well, and I am gonna ask the question, I'm gonna ask the administrator, about, we don't wanna feel like we're just rubber stamping. And I don't know that was, I feel like we had a lot of input in there.
Yeah.
Well,
But there could be a situation,
It kind of felt like it, maybe because it's
Well-
the first time.
I'm gonna be honest, there's been enough lawsuits around, I tend to take my marching orders from state statute and lawsuits that have been coming for other people, and I've seen enough lawsuits on that, that short-term rental thing. I was nervous about even going down that road. I think I said when I walked in, I should have worn my descent pearls.
I think
I
it's worded very well. I think I'm impressed the way it's worded.
Perfect.
it's pretty good.
I don't think that we needed something so robust, like Pinehurst has every loophole and thing covered. We're not ever gonna do that, and we're not that crazy. Let's just make it readable. I don't want any more confusion. I mean, I want homeowners to be able to come in here and go, oh, here's the rules. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
it's easy.
perfect, got it.
Super
Super
easy,
easy,
clear.
no confusion. So, I think we're good, and I don't know what time it is. We're gonna adjourn at
7:40.
7:40.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Why don't we do the motion?
Okay.
Adjourn?